On this Empowered 305, we have a very special guest. Long overdue. Chief Manuel Morales, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
We have so many things that I know our listeners and our viewers want to know. How did you get into law enforcement? Because you're my boss. You're half of my boss, right?
Yeah. Still, right? You're
still my boss.
So, long story. I really can't remember. As far as I can go back in the memory of childhood, I can remember wanting to be a cop and being able to kind of help our community. And I think that desire has always driven me to kind of stay in law enforcement. And this is my 30th year, and I still feel like it's my first year. I still get the goosebumps every time I put on the uniform every morning. So awesome. I don't see any end in sight.
You're a military man. Talk to me about your time, your tenure serving this country.
So graduate high school at 17, still want to be a cop, but I'm too young. So I figured what's the next best thing to be military police. So I joined the Army in 88, right after graduating. Went in a couple of days after I turned 18 and had a fantastic time. Was there almost 4 years. A couple of deployments out there. So had a fantastic time serving our country. And I think it just kind of went ahead and then reinforced my desire to do something to keep our community safe, right? And vastly different, right? Being a cop in the military, it's not like being a cop in the streets of Miami. But I was fortunate enough. We did some deployments to St. Croix for Operation Hawkeye after Hurricane Hugo back in '89. Saw some potential of what the Army can really do, helping out a downtrodden community that was absolutely destroyed after the hurricane. And in the end of '89, the beginning of '90, we went to Panama when we arrested the then dictator, General Manuel Noriega. No relationship to our current boss, Art Noriega. Not that I'm aware, anyways. But had a great time over there as well. Did some good work with the Panamanian National Police, training the new force as they kind of restructure their government into a more democratic form. And then Desert Storm kind of kicked in the heels, and I did a year.
Wow,
Did a year at Desert Storm, got incredibly lucky. We're one of the first units completely to hit the ground. So we went to Riyadh and we did the security detail for General Schwarzkopf. So we were in the war room, right? All those things that you look in the movies where they have the big map with all the little units where they're at. We guarded that and we had a great time, man. Really enjoyed my time in the U.S. Military.
Why City of Miami PD?
So at the time, my first wife's brother-in-law, he was a sergeant with the Miami Police Department and the city of Miami back there. Remember growing up with Miami Vice.
That's what did it, Miami Vice.
Yeah, Miami Vice, man.
Look at the Miami Vice colors.
Yeah. I see you're playing homage here with the little... But I think from the beginning, I applied to just about every department back then. I got called before they got rid of Pompano Beach, but the county as well. And the city of Miami just seemed like a right fit, man. It's an incredible city. Even though I grew up in Hialeah, I always had a very deep attraction. I hear that guy. Hialeah guy. Hialeah High. So always had a deep connection with the city of Miami. And look, I guess my decision paid off, right?
It paid off.
So
you have an extensive resume. When I joined the department, you were a sergeant. You used to work in crime suppression.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I know you went back to school. Talk to me, walk me through. I want the listeners and the viewers and some potential that want to be law enforcement officers. Talk to them about how important it is to seek higher education.
So, I mean, that piece of paper on the wall is incredibly important nowadays, right? Kind of sets you apart. It doesn't define you, but it does set you apart from a lot of the other folks. And, man, I really did not like school, man. I think that's one of the reasons that I joined the Army as well, not only because I was too young, but I could have gone to college. School was never really my thing. And then later on, I recognized the value, but it was tough going to school and to seek higher education after you're older. It's tough, right? Because you're already used to when you're in high school, man. It's like a natural transition to going to college. But when you spend all those years away, then you're married and you're working full time, it's just a lot more difficult. But I think for me, it kind of made me appreciate that a little bit more, right? So when I look at the degrees that I have on the wall, I'm able to appreciate the effort and the hardship that I went through to kind of get that. And I went to St. Thomas. They had the leadership program, organizational leadership program, back in 2008. So I was able to get my bachelor's, and then I waited a little bit longer. In 2015, I was accepted to a little known program. It's the Naval Postgraduate School.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a program that FEMA sponsors, the federal government, and they pay for everything. So my master's degree was basically on the U.S. government. Very appreciative for that, and to the city of Miami, because it's kind of like a working commitment, right? It has to be something related to your job. So they accept folks from law enforcement, the fire services, public health, elected officials. So I had a fantastic time. Get to fly out every quarter out to Monterey, California. It's beautiful. At least back then, California was a little bit better than what it is now. I know they're going through their hardships now, but fantastic program. And it's very prestigious, and I'm just glad that the city of Miami saw me fit to allow me and to make that investment in me, to allow me to go and take time away from the police department, because it's a pretty intense program. So.
But that's awesome, and look where you're at now.
Look at that.
Seeing from the outside, getting to know you, and how you've been able, I've seen your trajectory. Talk to me about that vision and mission that you had from the minute you went from 2 stars to 4 stars. What are the resources that we have today that makes it so special? I think the mayor has said it a number of times, how low we are in crime, our per capita compared to other big major cities. What is it that you set forth from the minute you became chief to where we're at now, and you've been able to be steady fast with that?
Yeah. So huge difference from 2 to 4 star. I think a lot of times you don't appreciate the benefits of sometimes not being that top individual, right? And that individual that has the focus and the spotlight on them the whole time, right? So one of the most difficult transitions, I think, that going from assistant chief to chief was that, right? That realization that the buck stops with you, that I'm responsible, right? That you might be, at home on a Sunday and something happens on the streets and you're still responsible, right? So I think that was kind of the toughest part of the transition, kind of becoming comfortable with that weight and that pressure, right? Knowing that the safety of the community kind of rides along to the decisions that I make, right? And also, I'm technically the person who guides, directs, and dictates the actions and deployment of the officer. So I feel a very strong sense of responsibility every time an officer gets hurt, right? Because I'm the one that asks them to go out there and do their job. I'm the one that asks them to do a specific duty, a specific task, right? So when they get hurt in the line of duty, I feel that very strong responsibility, that did I do everything that I needed to do to ensure they had the training, the tools, and the ability to do their job effectively. So those are the biggest, I think, obstacles or barriers that I face as chief. So I think when we defined the mission, the biggest aha moment was when I sat down with the mayor and he told me simply, he goes, all I want you to do is to keep my city safe and strive each and every day to make Miami the safest it's ever been until we are the safest city in America. So that's where it goes, and my strategy and my strategic pillars have all been kind of centered around that. Not only the sanctity of life and knowing that every life is precious, but how do we go ahead and we implement the best strategies, the best initiatives to reduce firearm violence, right? And to restore the trust our community should have on the Miami Police Department, And then thirdly is, how do we take care of those that do the bulk of the work, right? How do we enhance and we improve officer morale, wellness, and health? Which are, at the end of the day, I can come up with all these initiatives, strategies, and missions and guidelines for folks to follow. But if we don't have the officers that go out there and do the job each and every day, then we're nowhere, right? Because you can come up with the grandest of plans, but if you don't go with those folks that actually, execute the plan, then you're nowhere. Which, by the way, shameless plug, we're hiring right now. So if
That's what
if
brought
you're
me-
if you're able to apply, go to miamigov.com and fill out the application for police officer. We start at $62,000 a year. in
We're going to
training.
start using this as part of the recruitment video.
Yeah, let's
Definitely.
do it. Let's do it.
I talked to other people that approach me on the street, and they're like, we love the city of Miami. And obviously, City of Miami PD, we put our names on the map for what we do. We also, I want you to touch on this, when those that want to come and commit a crime here, I'm sure they think about it twice because we have all those resources. Talk to me about facial recognition, how important that is.
So I remember a while back, maybe when we started and I was in investigations or even in crime suppression in the early 2000s, used to interview criminals. And a lot of them came from West Palm Beach and Broward. And you would ask them, man, why are you coming down to Dade to commit your crimes? And they're like, hey, man, because you stand a better chance to get away with it. And second of all, if you get caught, the judges are a lot more lenient here, right? So in the last few years, we've seen kind of like a flip, right? And that's largely in part to the outstanding work of our investigators, right? So now if you commit a crime in at least the city of Miami, you stand a very good chance to go to jail.
100%. That we can guarantee it.
Yeah, right.
I think we saw that with the incident with the building, Temple Court Apartments, how the man set the building on fire. And before the building was actually extinguished, we were able to take that man into custody, right? I think that plays a huge role, and that shows the community what we do. But that's just minute compared to other huge cases that we have, correct?
Correct. So, I mean, that's a fantastic example of how we kind of bond with our community. We're able to get a very good description of the offender. The witness was able to give us some information that kind of pointed us. Our investigators did a great job kind of identifying the guy, and our tactical units went out there, and within hours, we had that offender in custody. So it just, like I said, is a testament to the work of the great investigators that we have. When you have a clearance rate of 97% with homicides, it shows that you're taking the time, you're taking the commitment and the care to investigate the crimes fully, to bring closure to those folks that have been victimized, right? We're really trying to prevent the incidents from happening, right. But the next goal is, if we can't prevent it, let's make sure that we bring closure to it by successfully bringing that criminal to justice.
Before we conclude the program, is there anything that you want to share with the community that perhaps they don't see on a daily? Because you're not on the news every day. I know Miami Police Department has a phenomenal social media team, and they're very good about putting information out. Is there anything that you'd like to tell the community? Because, yes, we know that there's a lot of people that don't like to speak, but those are those that don't know how important it is to come out and be vocal.
I think my message would be one of gratitude, right? I would like to thank our community, because despite of what you see or what you hear on the local news, what you see on social media, which, by the way, the vast majority of all that criticism that you see about law enforcement, local government, a lot of those are bots. Those are machines that are programmed by individuals that have an agenda behind it, right? So those are not like real people, right? But when you go out into the street and you have one-on-one contact with folks, you can really begin to understand the appreciation that our community has for us, the support that we have, right? And that's something that not every city enjoys, right? When you talk to other major city chiefs, they all strive to get what we have here, which is that strong bond with the community where they really
Absolutely.
know that we care about their well-being, that we really care about them being safe, right? And we're going to do everything we can to prevent a crime from happening. And if we can't prevent the crime from happening, we're going to do our best to prevent a repeat occurrence, and that we're going to bring those responsible to justice. So thank you much for the community, for having our backs,
That's awesome.
for loving our officers. Everywhere I go, man, we get showered with, thank you for your service. We appreciate what you do for the community. So to those folks that are usually the vocal minority, I want to thank them.
That's awesome. Thank you for your leadership. I think you have an open invitation to come back and talk to us about other things, the intricacies of things, new resources that you're bringing onto the department. And I think those are things that our listeners and our viewers may want to know. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the unwavering years of support, right? And I think the mayor said it best. We are a very safe city, and that plays a huge role, and it lies on your shoulders. But sorry, but thank you. Thank you once again.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And that concludes our episode of Empower 305. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.